Hi, everyone, and welcome to F4 Obsessed, a deep dive. This episode, we are going to cover episode 1 of the show. If you did not check it out already, we did an episode 0 for this sort of show, this deep dive that we're doing, which covered our initial thoughts about the Hana Yori Dango phenomenon, as well as the special. For this episode, we are covering the actual first episode, which is called The Footprint of Meteor. With me today is my friend MC. I call her MC. She's Marie Claire Gould.
Hello.
Say hi.
I'm Marie Claire Gould. Yes, and it is true, F4 obsessed.
Yes, we are.
So that's why I'm here.
Absolutely.
And you will be too once you give it a chance.
Absolutely.
It's the producers are making it super easily available to everyone. It is on their YouTube channel, broken into 5 easy parts for the first episode with tons of ads. But you know what? We will go through tons of ads to watch this show.
Yeah, and some of the ads are actually very enjoyable
and entertaining. You're like, wow, KFC is big in Thailand? I had no idea.
Seriously, when I was watching it last night, Corey, my husband, was there, and he was like, he wasn't going to watch it with me, and then he saw some of the ads. He's like, please tell me you gift these for the PowerPoint you're doing for the show. It's like, no, I did not make gifts of ads.
We could do that later.
I figured it'd be fun at like towards the end to do a breakdown of like which ones were the best.
It's also fun to find the product placement because some of them are obvious in the first episode.
Yes. I definitely enjoyed that. And also I was wondering, like, that stuff she's squeezing out of that packet is sweet. What? I'm so confused. It looked like mayonnaise, but he said something about sugar, so I don't know what it was. But anyway, so
I think it was like donair sauce for any Canadians that are on this.
What is that?
Yeah, good question. Right? It's a very Canadian East Coast thing, donair sauce.
Is it sweet?
Yes.
Ooh, interesting. Is it good on potatoes? Because it looks like that's what she was eating.
Was she having like French fries or tater tots?
That's what it looked like.
I thought they were fish sticks.
Oh, ew.
I don't know. Let's get into this.
Let's get into it. Okay. So, first episode started with a beautiful intro. And I decided to I just wanted to read the quote because I really liked it. And the full thing is shot so beautifully, and it introduces all of our characters. And he says, and this is coming from our male lead, Thyme. He says, life is funny for someone who thinks of himself as grand, like he's got all the stars in the palm of his hand. But when he meets you, his small world becomes larger and more beautiful. We've learned to feel pain, sorrow, and have grown because of it. Most importantly, you show me how to love. It's funny, my whole world has changed because of one small girl, you. And then he says, thank you, but I accidentally left that part out.
Yeah.
He says, thank you.
He thanks her. Aww.
Yeah.
So my question for you is, because this is setting it up. This is where he's going. It's like when they show those shows like, this is how I died, and then they tell the whole story and the person doesn't really die. Where is this in our story? Is it the end, or is it 3/4 of the way through before the final trial?
The visual that they gave us was in the stadium, and she still had her uniform on. So, yeah. And his hair was still, I felt like it. I don't know. But we also know that he falls in love with her very quickly, like very soon in the story. So this could be
smiling at him.
She is smiling at him. And this could be right before things get, I don't know, things fall off a cliff. And, this could be right when she decides like, hey, like, I do like this guy. And then things get crazier after this. Yeah. So
I don't know either.
I don't know.
I do think that it was very, very smart on the director's perspective to have this is where we're going, audience. Stay with us. You don't need to hate him. He's on a journey.
Yes. It introduces him immediately as the guy you're supposed to be rooting for.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Like,
yeah.
I'm so glad
let's
did
just
that.
like get rid of all your doubts up front and remind you this is who he's going. This is the prince. Remember, this is the prince. This is where we're going to. Don't worry, we'll get there, but it's going to be hard until we do.
Exactly. It was a really, really good way to start it. So, initial impressions over in terms of like comparisons with previous versions, the setting. The setting is obviously high school, which we knew this going in from the previews and from the special and all of that kind of stuff, that this is set in high school. But one of the biggest kind of shocking differences was the fact that the female lead is not the new student on campus.
Yes.
She is explaining things to a new student. And so the roles are kind of flipped in a way.
Yeah. And I love this choice for a couple of reasons. One of them is it in previous versions, even in the core one, she's actually brand new to the school. And so is like, this is like the fantasy castle of Beauty and the Beast. Things are upside down, things are weird, right? They don't align to even the character that she's explaining it to. It's like, wait, bullying still exists in this day and age? And she's like, yeah. So it's kind of like Beauty is already in the castle and has kind of just kept her head down to try and like ignore what's happening. And so what that produces, and we'll get into this in a little bit when there's an actual shift. So this is like the intro, is that our main lead female is giving us the glimpse into the world through her own lens. So everything that she is telling us is her exact version of reality. So we're already set. Whereas in previous versions, they kind of had to show us, right? And I know that showing versus telling, showing is always superior. But in this version, I actually think that it's better because it quickly goes from point A to point B of where we are, what we expect, how she feels about things. And she's able to actually give us how she feels about things, which in other versions, because it was show don't tell, we couldn't get internal monologue. We couldn't get perspective on how she feels about things. Right. It's a blank slate because we have to show things. We don't get her explaining anything. I think it was incredibly smart.
Oh, and absolutely.
And when she makes the choice to stand up to the bullies, she is already in the magical castle. And so it actually means she has agency of her own choices rather than previously she was just new. And so things were not right. So she tried to change the new environment, whereas she was in the environment and she made a choice to change the environment. I think it's just so smart.
It is really smart. I kept thinking towards the beginning, like, how is she, like, how are they going to explain how she's gone this long and not caught the eye of any of the F4? And then I realized, like, partially through it, that it was actually making a bigger impact on kind of their status and how they literally like
along with it.
Yeah. They never saw her. And she goes to the stadium as well with the new girl. And they watch what happen. Like they watch it all happen. And it's the first time that any of them even look at her. Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean anything. He sees her. He looks away. It doesn't mean anything. And it's just like another day. And that's so different from any other version because she was so, she was fresh before and she was like super naive about the school before. And they've done some things like with the Boys Over Flowers version with, the person, like the boy on top of the building and all of that. And
they've made the school itself very extreme in some versions and not extreme in others. And the understanding of the social differences has been played up in one way or another. But I think that this version really set a very level playing field, and it was all up to the choices that the director and the writers have made, which is so good.
100%. Yeah. Very, very interesting. And obviously the social media aspect of it was really cool. And the fact that these kids are on there, I'm
part of a giant school group chat and it's like, and game on, game start, right? Like it's part of the society of this school, and they've created like this ecosystem around it, and instantly integrating the things that we've talked about in our episode 1, which was like, how do you integrate the technological changes from 1992 to 30 years later? Right? How do you make them relevant? How do you well, you know what? Maybe these themes are universal, and that's why they keep on being played out. And the technology just adds a level of fear or a level of wariness around how they do these things. So they specifically bring the character, they explain it. They're like, you can't do anything that's purposeful on camera. You have to make it look like an accident. But then when you drag them to the stadium, that's when you can actually
do whatever you want,
beat them to up, or do whatever you want. So that's where the horror aspect of this school, there's a horror aspect to this school that is so cool. Like, and it's played up in one way or another. Like, it's either social horror, like in Meteor Garden, or it's physical, I'm going to be killed by a mob, or in other versions. And this is like, I could be killed. They could kill me.
They tell them, I think they say, like, you know, make sure that he gets out of here alive to the girls. And because it was just that was a genuine concern. They had to warn them. Like, guys, just don't kill him. Like, that's the limit here. Like, that was bizarre. But I really liked you know, the messaging here and what they do with the bullying, like right off the bat, was really, really interesting. Because personally, like, I mean, I didn't grow up in this. I grew up, I mean, obviously both of us were bullied when we were kids, but we've talked about that before. But in terms of online bullying and social media harassment, that's new. Like, that's not something that you and I were dealing with as children or as high school kids. And the big message here that Thyme makes is that, you know, we're just allowing them to be those anonymous accounts, the anonymous accounts that they are online. They can do whatever they want. They can say whatever they want without any consequences when they're online. He's like, we're going to allow them to be the anonymous accounts in real life. Like, that's all we're doing.
Okay. So I have a lot of thoughts about this.
It blew my mind.
Okay. So this is the inevitable conclusion of alt-right recruitment online. And we see it literally play out with the January insurrection on the Capitol. Like, this was all online talk until suddenly it became real.
Exactly.
And so genuinely, this is a real thing. And they got it. They understood the problem with just online. It's just online. It's just people's feelings. No, when you enable these people online, it actually can spill over into real life if somebody says, okay, you can go and do that.
Yes. Permission is everything.
And so they allow it. They don't stop it because they are in control of the school. This F4 group is in control of the school. And so that is why this story is so relevant. Instantly, we understand, well, this could happen. Even though it's fantastical, we know this could still happen. Yeah, it could still happen. And it does happen, right? It does. On some level, it does happen. And that is the point that's being made here. And this version is like, hey, this like the director's reaching in and saying, like, this does happen. What if it happened to an extreme?
Right, to an extreme. It does happen though. And so this particular, I put this screenshot in the middle too, because I thought it was really interesting how they kind of shoved that in there. They showed on a bathroom stall how all these words are you know, written on the bathroom stall. And it's funny that they're written in English, so they could probably get away with more of it writing it in like, you know, their language. But
I was surprised.
Yeah.
The sausage queen.
Yeah, the sausage queen. Oh my God. And it's so funny because I grew up with that. I remember there's being stuff written on the walls. I remember somebody put my name on a bathroom wall with the, you know, B word, and I was like, it broke me for weeks. Like, like that stuff hurts. Words hurt. Words are incredibly hurtful, and they could really break you mentally. And I thought it was really interesting how they were choosing to kind of focus on that. Like, these are just words. Yeah. But like what they're doing in the stadium, like beating somebody up, is probably like the least traumatic part of what they're allowing to happen, because they're just allowing any kind of bullying. It's anything goes. And that's creepy. It is like a horrific aspect to it.
This is the horrific aspect of it. And like, there are rules. And as long as F4 is in control, that is what matters, right? So they set the rules, they set the boundaries, and it's all in the purpose of Thyme being in control of the school.
Yes.
And that's led from his mom. And it was so brilliant later on in the episode to actually have his mom come in and say, and sort of explain her philosophy on business. If a player is causing problems with the team, you have to give them a red card. And that instantly equates to the red card with all of the different Fs. F4, different versions of F, saying we're all united and we control this. And then going to Thyme and saying, if you can't rule a school, you won't be able to control anything else when you grow up. So this is her expectations, the generational trauma and BS coming down on him. And that's why he feels the need and the right to control everything.
So the bullying happens, and then we go to the flower shop where her and her friend work, and you have the flower shop owner, who's a fantastic character.
Yes.
And he goes through every single one of them and explains like who they are and their social media personas. And then we have our female lead, Gorya, who says, but they're not actually like that. And she's explaining, she's the one giving us the exposition for telling us the truth, which is that, no, he's actually a player. He's actually mafia. He's actually horrible. And then they get to Ren, and she's like, well, I mean, maybe he's
a sweet
different
guy. Maybe he's different.
Maybe
and they call him a unicorn, or he calls him a unicorn, the flower shop owner. And I had to wonder if that was actually a play on the actor who plays the Lay character in Meteor Garden 2018, also played the main guy in Unicorn Girl. And I was like, is that what they're saying? No, that can't be what they're saying.
It's interesting.
Very
interesting little
I was
parallel.
Like, what? Okay, but no, he is the special one. He is the unicorn amongst the Flower Four, in that he is who he is on the outside and genuinely cares about other people, and his family sort of reflects that. At least that we know. I don't think that they're going to make him outwardly, I don't know, sarcastic or uncaring. I really don't know that they're going in that direction. So we'll see if he's kind of leaving up to that, hey, this is her perfect version of him. The worst thing about him is that he's boring.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And in Meteor Garden, there was like a line where he says, like, basically like, leave me out of this, like, don't involve me in your drama. And that was pretty cold and cruel at that moment. So I do think we might get a version of that with him, like, leave me out of this, like, don't involve me in this. But I don't know.
Well, they played it up a little bit in this episode when she tries to hide on the roof, and he's like, you're making it so noisy up here, otherwise it's beautiful. Like, what are you doing?
Just don't shout.
Stop finding me and bothering me with your problems. Like, there was a little bit of that, so I don't know how much they'll play with that or not, but it was there. It was just toned down a little bit,
exactly,
to be more uncaring. Like, I don't care about anything, rather than I don't care about you specifically.
Right. And those,
because he still helps her.
Right. Yeah. So then we have the ultimate moment, which kind of is the crossing of the threshold for a heroine, basically. It's when she decides she's no longer going to give in to the bullying, and she's going to stand up for her new friend. Her new innocent friend, right? She's no longer the innocent one, but she is the heroine that must save her innocent friend, which is totally different than what it typically is. And I love the shot of the spaghetti on the shoe. I just think it's funny. I like, so well done. So because in the previous versions,
shoes are very ostentatious, and
yes,
yeah,
shoes are very symbolic. in this
They
show.
really are. And I did check that they do have the same sort of superstition around shoes in Thailand.
Oh.
And shoes are actually very important. Like you don't wear shoes in houses. Sometimes you don't even wear shoes in shops.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like taking off your shoes, similar to other cultures. But like if you give somebody shoes, they may run away because shoes are supposed to be pairs. So you have to give yourself shoes at the same time as you're giving your partner shoes. That's a thing in many Asian cultures.
That's interesting. I didn't know it went to that extent. I like that.
Yeah. It's all around how shoes are meant to be pairs.
I love that. And
it's a thing.
That makes what happens later a lot worse than.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's already bad, but we'll get there. We'll get there. So yeah.
But no, I love this. And I spoke a lot about this in episode 0, but I do want to point out this is her moment where, because she is coming from a place of, I have been accepting and living with this horrible rule system of this, and I'm aware of it. I'm aware of it so much I can give you meta commentary on it to a new person. The fact that she chooses to step up, fight back, push back on Thyme. This is the change. So it goes from intro to this moment where she has decided to push back. And I want to point out that there is actually a moment in here where he's like, she gave me orders.
Yes.
You have such a good friend who gave me orders.
She told me what to do. Yeah.
She told me what to do.
Yeah.
Because that is a common thread in most of these versions where the main female lead, Gorya, in this one, eventually gives orders to the male lead, and because he loves her so much, he just accepts them.
Yeah.
Right.
It's foreshadowing in a way.
Foreshadowing because he accepts these orders. There's something about her. He accepts them, but then he punishes her for them.
Yeah. There's something I said about this particular version compared to others, which is that he is like a chained dog compared to other versions. Other versions, he's like this aloof, like goofy, dumb character who just
Meteor Garden, he is also a chained dog.
He is, but and there's moments in which it could be either. Like you don't know which dumb
you're getting. Yeah, he's kind of like a fun dog. I want to see silly. I want to see the sweet, like not dog chained up version of him in Thyme. Like
me too.
It's going to be amazing. But there is a comparison where in many of the versions, the main female lead calls the main male lead a dog.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
that is a symbolic thing that is throughout many of the versions. And so the orders thing, or like you're giving me like an order, is key. Because of how he treats it. Like, does he fight against that order? Because he is this dog that like
he needs to be trained.
He needs to be trained through their experiences, and it's about refining the character. And I'm not trying to say like he's a dog, but symbolically it's there in all of the versions.
Yeah, like I mean, obviously alluding to a dog is poking fun at this character. It is dogging him. Like it's not the only way to interpret this, but yeah, it's a facet of it that's very cute in a way.
Yeah. So. And the fact that he like took it, and there was some high status, low status stuff happening when she decided to look at him in the eye versus not deciding to look at him in the eye. He is so tall, and I love how the director actually pointed out that they had to find the right height guys in Thailand.
Yes.
Because they're all supposed to be
really tall, like taller than everybody else. Yeah,
over 6 feet tall is kind of the level of how tall they're supposed to be. And she's shorter, and she still like looks down, like not trying to look at him in the eye, but then will, and then he accepts that like order, even though he like doesn't want to. Yeah, chews on it and is like, your friend, you're so lucky to have your friend.
Yeah. And he also is very he respects loyalty. He respects when somebody is loyal to someone else. That immediately came off. Like, I was like, it's in every other version that he respects somebody being loyal to a friend because he knows what that's like with his friends. So that was really cool to see. So so she gets served a red card. We all knew this was coming. I love that the Fs, by the way, I'll go back to it,
are all different.
The 4 different Fs.
Yeah, I love it. It's to show that they're all unique, but they're F4. They're all these flower 4. Yeah, because they're all
brilliant.
unique, like unique flowers.
Like unique flowers.
But the card itself is that is some high quality paper.
Oh yeah. It
right?
was, like super nice.
Like if this was American Psycho, we would be comparing the card
like the business
stock
cards,
and the embossments. And
absolutely.
Oh,
I wish I had that much time to like pull every single red card from every single version and like
that could be a future thing.
Yeah, it could actually. I would do it. It would be fun. So she gets the red card. She hides out in the infirmary for a minute, which I thought was brilliant. So she bursts into the classroom and she's like, I'm going
sick.
to the infirmary. I'm sick.
I have a headache.
It was such good comedic timing and it was so satisfying. But of course we know she can't run away from it all day.
People catch her and give her the version of the red card that they're allowed to do in the school property, which is, accidents. So water drops on her and balls and knocks her over, and so she eventually runs away to the roof, which again, this is different in every version. So it is most commonly a stairwell, like an emergency stairwell. That's been what was in the manga and many of the other versions.
Korean version,
Japanese version. But Meteor Garden 2018 did it in the roof, and I think that the roof is superior. The
roof is on fire.
Right.
It's awesome. So she can, and that's the whole point. She just needs a place to scream, and she did this in the previously in the episode. She goes up there again thinking she's alone, and of course now Rin makes himself known.
And protects her,
and it's hot. It's actually really hot. Like we saw this they clipped this in like the special. And I was like, ooh, that looks cool. But then when it actually happened in the episode, it lingered for so long with his hand over her mouth. It was, and then they played like a little bit of music in the background. And I was like, this is nice. This is very nice.
This is good. They get it. And they don't, there's something about this actor and how thoughtful he is with the character that everything he does, although seems reluctant and he's not emoting externally, which is hard. How can you play a character that has emotions that you're like, I'm acting without emoting? That's hard. But he does it so well with his eyes, especially, and sort of small, subtle mouth movements.
Yes, that's why I like when I gift it here, the expression that he gives her before he yanks her. I'm just like, yes, it's perfect. It's awesome. And then of course we find out that he drew her, and that was a beautiful little reveal that we saw. And she's kind of taken aback by it. She's like, why is he looking at me? Like, he has no reason to be looking at me.
You're perceiving me.
Being perceived.
I'm being perceived. No. And I thought funny. This was a private, like, alone moment where I was screaming into the ether or screaming into the universe, but no, I was actually perceived. Oh no.
Exactly.
I have been perceived as well as I have been perceiving him. Ooh.
And we also get the sense that he's being kind of changed by her, which is something that we know happens in the other versions. Like, he is seeing her, he's perceiving her, he's understanding her, and he's like, okay, you're right, this place is kind of messed up. Like,
maybe I'm not cool with this, and provokes him to take action.
Exactly. Right. So this is something fun. I made all these notes yesterday, and then last night when I rewatched the episode again, I freaked out because I was like, I forgot to include the Black Rose theory. So
okay.
So in the opening for every time the different part opens after the commercials, we get this little screen on the left that has black roses and red roses. And it was on the red card and all of that. So, and then on the right, we have a screen grab from that moment where
like,
Thyme,
where is she? Why haven't you gotten this done yet? Which is directly from the comics as well. Like, why hasn't she left yet? Get rid of her. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, like, he's never been referred to as Black Rose before, right?
Never.
Okay.
No.
This is a new thing, but
and I love it.
I love it. I'm so obsessed with it. So in the comics, they do focus on roses because, like you said, I think before either this episode or the last, about how roses are beautiful, but they're thorny.
Yeah.
And in the music video, they have the visual of the black rose and the red rose, and he refers to himself as Black Rose as his name for social media. And to me, it means like that he is going to turn from a black rose to a red rose. Like at first I was like, well, maybe she's the red rose.
Or Ren is the red rose, but
Ren is the red rose.
The thing that they're all supposed to be unique flowers. That's part of it. Right. So I do think, and this ties into sort of Beauty and the Beast symbology and things like that, to have the beast be represented by a rose.
Yeah.
So I think it's good. And he shows his like literal watch, like you took a picture of your watch,
which is also funny because your Thyme, I know Thyme, they don't always say time like that. They say time. They sometimes say it like Thyme.
Thyme.
So I don't really know.
Thyme.
But he was like, get on it, guys. Like, it's time. Like, let's go. It was all very weird to me. Like the black rose thing is kind of messing with my brain. Also with in terms of like what her name means and like growing and flowers and all of that is like weed flowers versus like roses.
Yeah, like things that you want in your garden versus things that you don't want in your garden, all that stuff. Yeah. And growth, like that's I think we'll see more of this. That I mean, they're choosing visuals and choices purposefully. I think it's just very early, so it's something that we'll pay attention to.
We're gonna look out for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Black Rose being his nickname is so cute.
It's so good. Yeah.
Okay. This scene bothered me. They were going to do bad stuff to her.
Okay. So Marie Claire has not fully watched the original version of like Meteor Garden, right? So the Taiwanese version has an attempted rape scene, right? An assault. Yes, yeah. There is an assault on her in the Meteor Garden 2001 version. And it is implied that that's what they were going to do. And that
by ripping her collar specifically, that shows, and then doing the flashlight, like they were doing, that's what they were saying. We could do anything to you, Gorya. Like that's what they were saying.
And for particularly this one, the camera is obviously showing maybe they weren't going to actually do anything to her, but they were going to film her, in a
compromising position or in a way that she would never want to return. And exactly, to me, that leads my brain to one place.
Well, and in the manga, it's really interesting because it's insinuated that something like that happens, but it's not explicit. But everyone interprets it in a different way. So the 2001 version interpreted it in that way. This version did that, and I don't remember exactly the Japanese version, but I know that there was a little bit of wiggle room with this particular scene because the manga was not explicit about what was actually supposed to happen, because obviously later Thyme is like, I didn't tell you guys to do this. You went too far, basically. Mm-hmm. So in the Meteor Garden 2001 version, it's a lot more gray. Like there's a lot more like subtlety in terms of like what he asked them to do and what he was mad about them doing. So sometimes it comes across as like he asked them to do it and they didn't do it, so he was mad that they didn't do it. So it just depends on how you're watching it. So
and the choices of the director and the writer to accentuate different things, like how bad is he at this point that he would be willing to be okay with that as
Right.
well.
So,
Yeah.
and at least we know that as far as these boys were willing to go, we know that Thyme did not tell them to do this.
Yeah.
They told us before and they told us after that Thyme did not give them an explicit order. It was, hey,
just you get her to leave the school.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and so then we have a really wonderful scene. I personally like the fact that the conflict was building up to this point. The stakes were very high.
Yeah.
And when Ren comes in, you're like,
whoa,
thank God.
Yes. And again, it's like this like reluctant hero thing where he's like, you've invaded my space again, woman. What are you doing? And she's like, quiet. Well, I can't leave. This isn't going to end. There's no way I can go home. They're just waiting for me outside, basically, because there is no end to this. They want me to leave. And so he's like, well, let's give you a third path out where you can at least go home.
Yes.
You know, and cleansing water cleansing, i.e. change. Right. So this is a symbolic change. You can even see him in the GIF itself smiling as the water rushes over him because he feels relief.
I love that
he
part.
Did not go along with Thyme's plan because he realizes that Thyme needs to be stopped. And this girl has entered into their lives as a change to that, fighting back against the establishment.
He is so relieved. He's like, I did something different. I did something against...
I changed this path for myself and for her.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's so satisfying. And it got me really emotional because, again, I didn't like this character in other versions, but this one's getting into my heart.
Yeah.
So she goes home. She is like, I'm quitting the school. I'm not doing this anymore. And her mom tells her, like, this isn't like you. This isn't my daughter. And tries to cheer her up and then says, by
saying you could marry a rich guy. and then she's like, I would rather be poor than end up like those people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's had it. She's done. And this is the most interesting thing for me for her character in this version is that she is explicitly saying what we have seen been almost said in every other version, which is that she's like, I don't want money because money hurts people and money makes people be monsters, basically, because that's what she's seeing with the F4. She's seeing that she's seeing different sides of them, and she's saying like, I would never want to be like any of them. And of course we learn as she learns that there's other sides to them and that they're not just monsters, but she doesn't know that right now. So
well, and in some ways they're under a spell too, right? Like that's the fantastical, they're under a spell of their own creation and own, like how they were
parents'
raised
creation
and their parents' creation. And they need to have a little bit of dirt injected into them to think about the world from a different place.
Ooh, dirt injected into them. I wonder when that's going to come up in this episode.
Yeah.
All right. I like it. So you said this one before, but we'll get there again. So
I didn't realize you had a slide. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
But yes,
it was in the notes.
The scene where Thyme is getting mad that like things aren't going his way, and then having that reinforced by his mother, who's like, "This is why you're the way you are." Right. Yeah. It's so good because and then everybody's kind of having these meta commentary. Ren doesn't normally care about anything. Why did he do that? That's interesting. Like, and then having him be like kind of spun out of control a little bit, and then having that pushed down on him with this, no, you have to have zero mercy. You have to have zero compassion. How dare you care about others? The only thing that matters is control. I mean, if this was a Star Wars conversation, I'd be like, okay, thank you, Rosalind Palpatine. No, quite literally. Like it's like she's
in his head.
Her way of being is about having absolute control over all of the situations. The dragon mom and others in the Chinese version, all of the moms tend to have this kind of layer of, I have control and I expect you to have control. you're the king of the school. You have to be king of the school.
Exactly. It was really interesting because he says, right before he goes to sit with his mom, why is Ren even getting involved? It's none of his business. Even though if he was mad at them for doing what they did, and it was only because of Ren's interfering with it that it stopped what had happened, and he knew that, but he is out of control and he's freaking out. He's like, I have to be in control. And then now we know, because after he sits with his mom, they tell us why he needs to be in control and why it's not okay that he wasn't the one. Like you think he's thinking he should have been the one to stop it, actually, not Ren. But he's conflicted about that, right? He's like, I don't know what to do. People are acting in ways I can't.
Yeah. And I think that
foresee.
It makes sense from a Ren perspective because his F is on the red card. And so technically, even though Thyme is in control of the red cards and is in control of the F4s and in control of the school, everybody has their name on the F card, like on the red card. So they're all in agreement. And if for some reason they're not in agreement and he doesn't understand why they're not in agreement because he hasn't actually confronted her except for that first confrontation. And so this leads him into a phase of doubling down.
Exactly.
Right.
So they have this scene, which I don't think I included here. I did not. So they have the scene of the pressure, right? Pressure.
Yeah.
What is so difficult about being on the top, being higher than everybody else?
Why are you up there? And why do you what is so bad about having all this money and prestige and status?
Right.
And they go into it with a description of showing and telling at the same time with Cavan explaining to these women who are falling on him. Why is it so hard to be in the upper atmosphere where there's literally no oxygen? Well, you can't breathe.
Exactly. The pressure gets to you. And then at one point he squeezes the olive and he bursts the olive over his drink. And it's showing us when pressure builds up, you burst, you break. And then they show,
and that's paired with Thyme beating up a guy he was kind of doing a street race with. And then having that covered up by his men on the side.
Yeah. They take the little black box that's recording everything and they just get rid of it. And it's it never happened, because people who have power, they can control the narrative. And yeah, it's all building up to this moment where he can do whatever he wants. And we're going to understand exactly where it's coming from. And that's incredibly important, because before, a lot of this came from kind of inferred, he was a spoiled brat, he could do whatever he want. He get away with whatever he want. It was all based upon these stereotypes. And now we have this really explicit setup for him to do something incredibly cruel, but also incredibly specifically cruel. Right.
Yeah.
And we're able to understand where it's coming from, understand why he did it, and understand how he's probably going to come back from that. Eventually.
And then also understand why he takes further, even though he's fighting himself at the same time. So
exactly,
that goes into story that's later on in the series a little bit too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the shoes are gifted at this point, and this is all got weird symbology in it, because there's the stuff with the shoes, which you already mentioned about how shoes are really important. They have to come in pairs and all of that. And then also the dad says these shoes will take you to a good place that may be hidden. And then he says, until you find it. And I think that's really specific, right? That's
very specific wording.
Yes. You haven't found it. You have to find it. The shoes are going to take you there, but you still have to do the work.
Yeah.
That's literally what happens. So,
and there's two things happening with the shoes. So on the side, the way they're turned when he's drawing the little, they look like little flowers, right?
Yes.
But they actually look like meteors from a different angle.
Yeah, from a different angle, which is this very specific angle. It was at first I thought it was upside down, but it's not. It's from the side.
It's from the side.
From the side, they look like shooting stars or meteors.
Or fireworks or something. Lights.
Yes.
Right? Joy,
light.
lights, being there. And then on the other side, they look like little flowers growing out of the dirt.
Exactly.
Which is our two mains representative symbolically in the story.
Yes. Coming from two different directions. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. So she gets the shoe.
Yeah, she gets the shoe and then she decides to wear them. She's like, it's gonna be a new day.
Yeah.
And in her locker, so she opens up her locker, and I didn't grab the screenshot, but I did tweet about it last night before we're recording.
Oh, really?
There's a screenshot, like there's a little sticky note that says, this isn't a bad life. It's just a bad day.
Oh, I saw that. I forgot about that.
And then there's a little like emoji face and a different sticky note that's just like a straight line across, like, So she's like, I'm going to try again. And she's like, there's no red card today. Maybe it's all stopped. Like, we kind of get this hope, but then they steal her shoe as she's trying to clean it up.
Yeah. So this is like a consequence of her acting up, right? So moment in the cafeteria when she decided to stand up to him, like she crossed that threshold and she can't come back from it, even though she wants to. She wants to try to keep her head down and she wants to try to avoid everything. But as soon as that shoe is kicked out from underneath her, it's told to us like, you're not coming back from this. Like, you're in this now.
Yeah. This is now the story, the journey that you're walking on. And like one shoe, she is so the shoe kicks down the road, and this is just brilliant because of the shoe thing. Shoes have to come in pairs.
When I saw the pointy shoe, I was like, what?
And then the person that gets the shoe in the end, who is the fate, right? This is the inevitable fate, the vergence moment. This is a vergence moment where they have converged together. The shoe stops, and he is the one who stops it and decides to commit violence against the shoe, i.e. the symbology of her. She is the shoe.
She is the shoe. And every single time he says anything about trash, he's talking about her.
Yes. Or some things don't belong here. We have to take them out. We have to make things orderly, order, control, things like that. You don't align because you're in the garden and you're a weed. You're a clump of grass that doesn't belong here.
Yes.
It's all the same thing. These like this symbolism and this like metaphor exists in the original version, but they're doing it so purposefully in this version that it's wonderful.
Oh, it's so specific. He says trash needs to be disposed of and placed correctly. Like, yeah, it's an order. It's a control thing. And to me, this was particularly cruel. I found this like actually kind of disturbing to watch. Like, there was no music playing. He was just cutting up her shoe, and we had this really long lingering shot of her watching him do it.
Like, and you think you can have nice things, you can't.
Exactly.
You think you can be here, you can't.
And what's even worse is that he didn't know the shoe was he didn't know that shoe was nice, right? The shoe was not nice. It's not expensive to him at all.
Yeah.
He, as far as he knew, she was wearing these shoes already.
Yeah.
He didn't know that they were new shoes.
He didn't know that they had special meaning because of the emotional like moment she had with her brother and her father and her mother, who paid the money for it. Like, this is her family standing behind her. Exactly. And so he's saying it to her family, fundamentally who she is too.
Exactly. It's more than just her. It's everything that she is and what she comes from. And the fact that she goes and she retrieves it almost in defiance,
puts it on
the
rest of the F4, so like three other guys are like looking at this and are like, wait, like, it's not like everybody else is kind of grossed out, like in the audience that's surrounding this moment. They're like, why is she putting on the shoe? But the guys in F4 they're like, we've never seen anybody stand up and just say like, no, Thyme. Even them, they don't say no to him.
Exactly. And to say like, no, I'm not worthless and I'm not trash. Like, that's what she's saying when she's doing that. She's putting it back on like, no, I can still wear this. Like, this is still wearable. Like, this is still me. I'm still worthy of something. Like,
yeah,
it was saying a lot and it was all packed in there. And the fact that the audience of the show, of the story, is reacting in the way that the audience watching this, like, it's a very meta commentary, right? It's telling us like our emotions are exactly where they need to be.
yeah.
So no, but not only does she defy him symbolically, like with just putting the shoe back on, but then she kicks him with that shoe.
Dirtying him, changing him, the footprint.
And this entire episode culminates in this one moment, and that's why I think everyone is freaking out about how good it was, because the episode is called Footprint of Meteor, and she is placing a footprint on his white shirt with her dirty shoe, and she's leaving
and meteors are fundamentally made of dirt, right? Like they're just dirt. They're sparkly and beautiful when they interact into the sky, but they're fundamentally just dirt. Earth stuff. Dirt.
That's so true.
There is no difference between the meteor up in the sky and the meteor down below on the ground, except for the fact that it is brought into the upper atmosphere.
Okay, that's interesting for
and makes light.
Yeah, for the convergence part of all of this, right?
Yes.
Because this contact that they have not had yet, this is the first time they've touched, right?
Yeah.
And what's even better is I think after this, she gets on top of him, like she straddles him.
She straddles him and grabs him by the lapel and says, "No."
And she's like, "I'm gonna fight you every step of the way.
You
from now on.
You don't get to win. This is not how this story goes."
Yeah.
And everyone is just like, "What? You can do that?" Yeah. He's been dirtied, right? And there's something about reputation and like power and control and all of that stuff that like once you start to smudge it, it's kind of like they've broken the mystique around Thyme.
Yes. That's my favorite part about this particular instance, and every single version, is that we're taking this person who thinks he can never be touched. Like no one can ever be on top of him, and then this little girl is literally puts herself on top of him and is like, "No, like you're not gonna do this to me." Like, and she finds him every
dominates him.
Yeah, she dominates him.
I took a picture of him looking at her, and I wanted to I'm going to grab the picture of Kylo after he gets hit in the face in TFA, because it's literally the same look.
It is. It's the same look. It's like,
I'm in love.
Yeah.
Hello.
I'm in love. I'm still mad about it.
I'm still mad. But like we talked about in episode 0 about the different times and how the director said that there was the, angry, childish, smitten. Let me just grab that. Sweet and smitten. And it's like he went from 100% angry / a little bit child to like 10% angry and 90% smitten.
Yeah.
In that moment. Like he's absolutely smitten and does not understand it at all. He doesn't understand it. And so he ends up becoming this angry child like after this. So it's really, really, really cool to see how the actor went from I'm angry to, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
This is different. This is new. This is unique.
Yeah. I really am curious to see what they do after the kick, because the kick is, to me,
like in other versions has knocked him out because it's a kick to the face, and many people were actually upset that the kick was not to the face. And I think it was a purposeful choice, and we'll have to wait until, like, literally this is the cliffhanger for you and I. It's like, what happens after the kick, because normally he's knocked out. But she's probably gonna leave and he's gonna be dumbstruck. I think that's a very powerful choice too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it'll be interesting. I know that there's a clip that they showed where she was like in the stadium, and I was like, well, maybe they go into the stadium after this. I don't know. Like, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm not going to try to theorize too much because this is so different from everything else we've seen. But yeah, let's talk about the kind of the overall symbology that's going on, because obviously we both like the episode. Like, we don't need to talk about our generic thoughts. We can.
I don't even think like rating episodes on a show that is so thoughtful like this is even valuable.
Right.
Like, I just don't think that that's even respectful to the creators.
I agree.
I want to spend my time talking about symbolism, talking about the metaphors, and talking about how they craft the story to show you how brilliant it is, because it is brilliant.
It is brilliant. And it's so much fun to just deep dive and do all the weird stuff. So
yeah,
actually,
we talked about shoes, clothing, trash, the shooting star idea of the meteor. But I want to talk about convergence, divergence, and vergence. So every time these two come together, they make a decision on whether they're going to diverge, which causes sort of more pain, or converge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And which direction that is going to come.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's a flow, right? It's going to be peaks and valleys in the story, and it's going to have a flow, and whether the waves by which they create these two characters go through will continue on in one direction or another. This was entirely brought about by my good friend Katie Poha Dameron. She made this graphic, and I'm going to use it everywhere from now on. So I get to talk about how she owns this thing for the rest of my life, and I'll use it wherever I think about it, because she is so smart, and she understands that in story, when you have two characters that are going on opposite paths and then they meet, that is the vergence of the story, and then they diverge, they come back together, and it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's going to happen over and over and over again. And it takes many of these to like actually choose to be together. That's the conflict. The conflict that happens over and over again is this vergence.
And two that's what that are one, the oneness of going beyond duality, right? This is all the stuff that we like to talk about as transcendent outcomes to stories that involve two characters that are equal and opposites.
Exactly.
And why it's so sexy. Like, why is it so sexy? Well, it's because you can actually think about them and understand the metatextual conversation about what is being said. It feels good when you think about parallels coming together, or things or systems becoming harmonious or balanced. Especially when you talk about systems that you want things to fit together correctly. If they don't, they're not harmonious.
Absolutely.
And then the other one is like the meteor concept of this versus grass or dirt. Yeah,
this kind of blew my mind, because obviously we've already seen like the drawing on the shoe, and the meteor versus the flower, and how they look very similar.
He talks about in the intro monologue being stars in his hand. There's
a lot of little things like kind of dropped throughout. I mean, the very first shot, I think, at the first episode is her walking through the water with the stars in it, right? You think it's this night sky, and then she walks through it like the water.
A meteor garden.
A meteor garden, exactly. So and obviously the footprint of the meteor, but the fact that she is not a star, but she is. Like, she's not, she doesn't think she's a star. She thinks she's just a clump of grass. But it's reaching up and growing that makes her bloom into the universe and become a meteor. And she already is. Like, this is where it gets complicated, because the symbols are telling us that she is also a meteor in his life, interrupting and kind of, creating
literally the meteor version of the shoe. The meteor version of the shoe is kicking him out of his life, out of his current state, right?
She leaves a crater on him.
And it is the footprint of the meteor, because she is a meteor, even though she doesn't see herself as one. And nobody else sees her as one. And then we get back and we get this double down
Mhm.
and it's shown twice in the episode,
Mhm.
the sort of theme of the school. So this is Coker High School, Bangkok. So it's like an international school, high school, where
Yeah.
they accept international students. Salt of the earth and light of the world. I don't know what to tell you. Salt
I
of the earth
mean,
being like, a metaphor for being down to earth. You are the
yeah.
salt of the earth.
Salt
And
of
then
the earth
light
is
of,
yeah, because salt of the
yeah.
earth is also like indicative of people who don't make a lot of money, right?
Yeah. You're a
So
salt of the earth person. You're on the bottom, etc. Light of the
working
world
class,
is
yeah.
you are high society, or you are the thing that brings the light to the world, the brilliance of the world. You're the thing that leads the world.
Yeah.
What?
And again, like we're getting into like how the symbols are pretty complicated when you start looking at them, because you can look at them from any point of view. You can see her as both of these things because she is for him,
Yeah.
right? But then he does similar things for her when her journey needs it. So, but that's love, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the love story, is like you are inadequate until you meet someone that you fulfill every need that they have, right?
Yeah.
You
And then
believe
you
yourself
are
to
the
be.
thing that is the light of their world, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have everything that they need. Doesn't matter how inadequate you feel. Like that's it is a part of your life to fulfill part of them. Like it's, I don't know, it's very weird. Love is weird and love stories are weird. And the most fun of this one is just seeing that evolution and seeing them evolve together and fulfill different parts, you know,
Yeah.
different aspects and learn different aspects of themselves. Like it's really fun.
You complete me. Like
Yeah.
that's the whole idea. You bring out the things in me that I never saw as something that was important or wonderful, or and her stick-to-itiveness, her salt of the earthness
Mm-hmm.
is what is so important to him.
Yeah,
Him bringing her into the light of the world so that she actually can be seen is what is happening. And they
exactly.
know it. They know this as they're making this version. They know the symbolism. They know the important things from a metaphorical perspective, and they're just doing it. It's
And they're
on the
just
main
doing it.
page.
Yeah.
And like when I saw this, I was like, oh, okay, let's go.
Oh, it's so exciting. It's so satisfying and it's so exciting. So we have to wait another week until we
I
see the
can't
next
believe
one.
it. It's going to be Christmas, but I'm going to wake up early to watch it because
Oh yeah, for
it was
sure.
like, so for me, it starts showing at 6:30 a.m.
Oh,
on.
mine's much later. Mine's much more reasonable. Thank
Yeah,
God.
and it's again available on YouTube. So if you were like finding it elsewhere, like YouTube at least gives the producer money,
Yeah.
which is like my thing. I'm gonna watch it on YouTube to like watch it and give the producer that ad money. That sweet
Oh
ad
yeah,
money.
for sure.
Yeah,
And they
yeah,
deserve it.
because they deserve the money.
It was so well shot. I know that's something we didn't really talk about much, but real quick, like it's beautiful. Like the lighting and the just what they've used and what they're getting in every shot. It's so purposeful and it's so well done, and I really, really appreciate it. So it's very cool to see.
And I'm so happy that you coming along on this journey with us. And you are
Yay.
also F4 obsessed.
Yes. Oh God. I I don't care how many people listen to this, but you better be F4 obsessed, because this is, I mean, that's what this is. So yeah. And this has been an F4 obsessed deep dive with Ty and Marie Claire.
Absolutely.
Is there
And we
anything
look
else we wanted
forward.
to say, or
I just think that you know, we're talking about stuff that we talk about in a ton of our other stuff.
true?
So like this is how we talk. Check out our other stuff. If this is the first time you've come around,
Yeah.
we are incredibly good together. And so I'm so happy to be doing this. And the rest of this the rest of these 15 episodes will be precious to me because obviously they know what they're doing.
I agree. I'm really glad that MC agreed to do this with me, because we're gonna have a really fun time with it. And we will do the time chart. I want to do the time percentage chart. We're gonna do that for every episode, because that sounds like a lot of fun. So yeah, please come on this journey with us. It's gonna be really fun.
And we're going to dig into the symbolism of every episode, so it's worth it even if you've watched the whole show by this point.
Yeah.
And we're going to show you things that you probably didn't even expect to see.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, clothing. Something I wanted to get into more, but we didn't in this episode, was just the clothing choices, which will be
he dresses like an animal. Like, that's cool. I
does.
didn't even get into that, but like,
we didn't even talk
you gotta
about
save
it.
some of the symbolism for later, because it's going to be repetitive. That's really important
Exactly.
too, so that messaging comes across. And I'm just over the moon. This doesn't even need a rating because it's perfect.
Yeah, it's great. I'm excited. All right. So where can they find you? They're looking for you, MC.
Yeah, so normally I'm known for my Star Wars and other media podcasting, which Star Wars podcast is What the Force. You can find it on YouTube or anywhere podcasts are found. I also have an other media podcast called What the Fiction, which you can of course check out. And I do a lot of stuff that I randomly feel like doing there. If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's WT Force Show for the Star Wars podcast, or WT Force Media for other media, etc., including some Asian dramas. And if you're looking for me just personally, it's Marie C. Gould on Twitter.
Yeah. And if you're looking for me on Twitter, you can find me at wit_folly, or you can find me on my personal at black_TYM. And obviously, if you liked this video deep dive, you can subscribe to me here on YouTube, subscribe to my channel. Make sure you like this video and share it with any other fans that you know of at the moment. All right. Thanks so much for listening. Cheers.